Hey guys, so today is one of those days where I'm not okay and I am trying to let myself be. I constantly tell everybody else it's okay to not be okay, and then I forget that I too am also human and I can have those days too. So, as I've been doing some grieving and some self reflection, I got an email that I'm going to share. Dear Ashley, I hope this message finds you well. I recently read One More Day, and I want to be honest with you. I've read many books about finding meaning in life's events. Most promise that everything happens for a reason, and that reason is ultimately good, or ultimately knowable, or ultimately something we can accept. You did something different. You wrote that you think everything happens for a reason, but then you immediately complicated that belief. Some reasons are not always clear. Some we are never meant to know. Some are right in front of your face, but too wrapped up in something else to see it. And then the hardest one, the reasons you do know, but you don't know what to do with the answer. Let me share one scene I will never forget. It is the final category. The reasons you do not know, but you don't know what to do with the answer. What stopped me is that most people stop at the belief that everything happens for a reason. You went further. You acknowledge that sometimes you know the reason, and the reason is useless. You have the answer, but the answer does not help. You know why something happened, but knowing doesn't tell you what to do next. That is a level of honesty most books avoid. They assume that knowledge is power, that understanding the reason brings peace or action. You admit that sometimes you have a reason and you're paralyzed. You know? You just don't know what to do with the answer. That scene stopped me because it did something most books about meaning avoid. It honored the stuckness, the paralysis, the uselessness of certain kinds of knowing. The answer is not always key. Sometimes it's just another locked door. Your book stands apart because you do not pretend to have solved the problem of suffering or meaning. You simply analyze because you're wired this way, and you invite readers into the same honest, questioning, sometimes helpless space. As a book marketing professional, I look for reflective books that respect the complexity of human experience, that do not offer false comfort, and that name the truth that some reasons we're never meant to know, and some we can't use. Your book has that. If you're open to it, I'd love to hear what prompted you to write this taxonomy of reasons and whether you have ever found an answer that you knew how to use. There's absolutely no pressure. I simply wanted you to know your book reached someone who reads reflective literature with a critical and hopeful eye, and it reminded me that the best books about the meaning of events do not claim to have unlocked the mystery. They admit that some things aren't clear. Some aren't meant to be known, some are hidden in plain sight, and some are known but useless. And then you give one more day to sit with that, not because the answer will come, but because sitting with the question is sometimes the only thing you can do. And that one kind of hit me in a few ways because it kind of was part of what I was reflecting on today. So to answer your question, what prompted me to write the book? I feel like that's an easy one. I wrote the book because I've been in that dark place more than one time in my life, and although, like she says, I don't promise some magical answer to life's pain, there isn't one. But I took what I learned from the painful parts of my life and tried to make something useful out of it, whether it was to help somebody else or give light, find light in the dark places. Like I said, I've been there. And I've been there when I've had to scratch, claw, and fight my way back out of that dark place. And I wanted to give a little light to somebody else in the same situation. As far as an answer I could use, that's a tough one. I mean, yes and no. all at the same time? Sure, there's some answers. Most of them are kind of, I don't know, the self-reflection ones, the ones where you find the lesson that you're supposed to learn so that you can get up, pick yourself up, and figure out where to go from there. But if I'm being honest, a lot of mine are in the category, I would say, of not meant to know. I find myself in those a lot, and I have to just accept that I'm not meant to know the answer. And recently I've had I know what the answer is, but it doesn't change anything. Those ones are real, and they happen a lot, and they're not pretty. I'm not going to sit here and say it doesn't hurt. There's a word, liminal, and it means threshold. And when talking about a liminal space, it means like the space in between, a transition space. So imagine yourself sitting on a bridge, and you're kind of stuck in the middle of the bridge. And there's stuff on this side, there's stuff on this side, but you're stuck in the middle. And you don't know which way to go. I feel like that would be a liminal space. It's a good way to describe it, give you an image of it. But I feel like we live a lot of our lives in that liminal space. More often than not, I think life consists of chapters and stages and in-betweens last longer than sometimes the season we're in. Sometimes the seasons can feel so short, and the in-between, which is always the painful part, but that's where growth happens. And that's where you find your true direction, but I feel like we sit in those a lot longer. Or maybe it's just because they're painful, it feels like it's longer. But I'm in one of those liminal spaces right now, with a lot of stuff going on. I'm in a transition phase from not there, not where I used to be, not where I'm going. I'm somewhere in the middle, and I constantly feel like every time I try to move one way or another, something pulls me back in a different direction. And if I'm being honest, I have no idea what the next move is or which side of the bridge I'm supposed to walk off of. And right now, I guess I'm not meant to know that answer. Maybe I will. Maybe it's one of those, you just find your way. But there is no magic answer. I never found an answer that I could use over and over again, except for the fact that nothing stays the same. And sometimes that is the only comfort we get, especially in that liminal space when we're sitting there and we feel like it's never going to end. We have to realize that it does end. Seasons change. Eventually, you will find your way out of it. Nothing lasts forever. If there's one answer, I guess, that I have, it's that nothing is permanent. And if that's the only thing you have to hold on to, sometimes it's enough to get you out of that dark place, or just to give you enough strength to go one more day. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. If anyone else is in that liminal space, just know you're not alone there. But it doesn't last forever. And remember, guys, it starts by talking.